You're listening to Zap Night's Zap Chats, a monthly video game discussion. Hey guys, and welcome to another episode of Zap Chats for April 2021.
Yay!
I'm your host, Danny.
I'm your co-host, Kaylee.
I don't really know what to talk about today.
Video games.
Yeah, what you been playing, Kaylee?
Lots of Final Fantasy IX.
Really?
Yep,
Nice.
I think I started like 2 days ago. I've already 9 hours in.
Nice. Good. Okay. That's about where I'm at too. I think I was at 9.5 hours, and then I did a bunch of level grinding over the weekend, and so I'm like closer to like 11 hours now. But it's been going pretty good. Like, I've been enjoying Final Fantasy IX. It's nice to finally get back into the Final Fantasy mode. Like, honestly, it's been a while since I've regularly been streaming. It's been over a month, because I was streaming very consistently through Assassin's Creed Valhalla, and then we stopped because me and Shannon were playing Oddworld, and we weren't really streaming that. So then when I started Final Fantasy IX, I went back to streaming again, and it's like, I don't know, it's just, it was nice to have that break.
Yeah.
More than anything else, it was nice to have that break, because I've been streaming pretty consistently for the past like year.
Yeah.
So, to have a break from that was kind of nice. It's different. I feel like it's different now because I'm an affiliate, that
fancy.
like the people who are subscribed to me have this expectation of me being there regularly throughout the month. So like, if I don't stream for a solid month, then like they're paying,
Right.
they put some money, they invested their money to see my content, and here I'm not doing anything. But like Assassin's Creed, not too many people were watching, so not that many people subscribed. And then when I went for my downtime during Oddworld, nobody even really noticed. Like, the only subs I think was Lori and myself, and maybe like one or two others that like constantly sub, but like it wasn't that many. So starting Final Fantasy IX, streaming again, it's been going really well. There's been a few raids. There's been a lot of people in the chats, and, it's been really, really fun to hang out and talk to people, and a lot of people really love this game.
Yeah. This is probably my favorite Final Fantasy.
Yeah.
Not to discredit any others, because I really like 7 and 8, but yeah,
Well,
this one's my choice one.
It kind of goes back to your favorite versus the best.
Yeah.
Because those things are very different. Like, technically, the best games aren't necessarily your favorite. Like, Final Fantasy VI was technically, like, the best out of all of the Super Nintendo era. Like, yeah, it was like, it really was the best of the Super Nintendo games, but like, it wasn't necessarily my favorite. It was technically the best, well-rounded game. I feel like Final Fantasy IX is definitely that for the PlayStation era. Like, it's technically a masterpiece. Like, the graphics are beautiful, the gameplay is pretty fun, the soundtrack is phenomenal. Spoilers to the podcast episode, but yeah, I mean, so far, being 10 hours into the game, like, I can tell that they put a lot of work into this, and it makes sense, right? Because Final Fantasy VII, they were fresh into the PlayStation era. Nobody knew how to do 3D, let alone, like Square. They had a lot of money to dump into it, but nobody knew how to use 3D, so they did the best they could with the technology they had. But by the time Final Fantasy IX comes out, it's old. It's old technology. They've gotten used to it. It had been out for 7, 8, 9... Is it... When did 9 come out? Was it 1999?
I want to say yes, but I'm not sure.
It was either 99 or 2000. I wonder what Japan was like.
It's 2000.
2000?
Initial release was July 7th, 2000.
Okay, so, like, from, Final Fantasy VII coming out in 97, and then, Final Fantasy IX coming out in 2000, there's a gap there where they were learning. And you can see, I mean, from Final Fantasy VII to Final Fantasy VIII, you could see that difference, that, effort put into some of those mechanics. The learning curve is out of the way. Now they can perfect those things. And you see that from 8 to 9 too, where they're really locking everything down and getting it to look as good as it possibly can on the PS1. So
I think on top of that, I feel like Final Fantasy IX is a good comedic relief from the last few games. Because, I mean, you get a little bit of comedic relief throughout these games occasionally, but this is like a nice, peaceful kind of game to me. Not all the time, don't get me wrong, but compared to the others, like, it doesn't have quite the serious tone like 7 did, and where 8, it felt very political, and where 9, it's just, I don't know, back to its old roots and all these allusions to past games, and yeah.
Yeah, no, I fully agree. You can see that, there's serious moments. Like right now, Burmecia is under attack, so your party is going to help the war over there. And like, yeah, it's a serious moment. We're going to help this town that's under siege. But like, leading up to that, we're goofing around and we're poking fun at the characters are poking fun at each other, and you do the Festival of the Hunt.
Yeah. Vivi. Vivi himself he's just so cute.
He is. Yes, he is.
Soft.
How did you do on the Festival of the Hunt?
I did a wreath. I won.
I mean, you've played it so many times.
I have though. Because my game is on the Switch, it's got the speed bump again.
Yeah.
And you can't do anything till time runs out. So I went through and defeated every monster and still had like 5 minutes.
Oh my goodness.
So just ran around and did nothing.
Right, because you're is it double or triple time?
I don't know. I think it's double, but I'm not sure. But I mean, you go really fast, but the timer is
the same. That's a cheat.
It kind of is. Well, I could do it. I know I could do it. It's not so much that it's convenient to be able to just, zoom past certain spots or take, or like when you do at the very beginning, you get quite a bit of tutorials, like the time events where you're at Q's Marsh with the Moogles,
Yeah.
For some reason, that takes forever to load that screen and go through all the dialogue. They're gone.
Yeah.
So stuff like that's just not necessary.
I noticed that that's a problem with mine, is that the battle transition stuff takes forever. Like, the fight gets initiated, and then it like, the transition takes forever. Then it has like, and I'm sure that it's loading, like, the transition is the game loading the battle scene. But then, like, the battle scene, it views like the 6-pixel tile, and then it like zooms out and then shows your characters, and then it like shows the monster and shows your characters and shows the monster, and then you can fight. It's like, okay, come on, like, let's just go, let's do this.
They did by the way, I'm getting ready to talk about my version is
sure, yeah.
The character models, beautiful. Chef kiss.
Nice.
Beautiful. But they did take care of quite a few things that were kind of annoying, which you have to deal with, which I know what you're dealing with, that kind of stuff. But the transition into the battle does still take some time.
I don't mind the animation. I just wish that the camera would not be so erratic. Like, you're in the battle, and like, you're in the middle of... I had this problem with Final Fantasy VIII, and I think 7 too, where like, your menu is down below, and you're choosing who you want to heal.
Yeah.
And instead of hitting like up and down from your menu to choose like Zidane or whoever, you have to go left and right depending on where the cursor is on the field. So like, you're not choosing the item on the menu screen, you're choosing it on the field character, and it's frustrating.
That did get fixed in mine.
Oh, they did?
Yes,
Oh,
you can
good.
choose it in the menu. The only thing is, the menu does not look the same as the original, and I don't like the new menu as much.
Yeah, that's too, it's too bubbly.
It's workable. It's just not aesthetically pleasing as the original, but maybe it's just because I'm so used to the original.
Yeah, probably.
But I don't know. I'm not trying to be a purist about everything. Like, they did a lot better than after playing 8's remaster, which was terrible.
Right.
There are a few places where it's like, wow, they kind of botched that a bit. But on the other hand, the character models, they are not so displaced compared to the background, which is still a bit pixely, but it's not so drastic like 8's was, which 8's was a disaster because they left NPCs static, which was terrible.
Weird. Well, I think it goes back to that source code stuff. Like,
yeah,
9, they had 9 source codes, so they were able to remaster it a lot easier than...
I will say, though, it's nice being able to see the NPCs a little bit clearer.
Yeah,
because
I'm sure.
Like, a lot of people on the theater ship, you don't see them as much out later in the game. You can kind of see, like, there's an alligator guy, and I didn't know it was an alligator guy.
Yeah.
But I did, however, notice how much NPCs they were recycling. Quite a few NPCs.
Yeah, somebody in the stream was telling me the old man, I can't remember his name, maybe you'll know. The old man, when you're in Delhi, there's an old man on the mountain.
Yeah.
And that character model is like everywhere in Lindblom. And he was saying that he went through and was counting all of that same character model, and it was like 30 or something like that.
There's a lot, yeah, there's a lot. Well, and they did quite a few for Burmecia too, but I mean, it kind of makes sense for Burmecia because they're rats. And you'd only get to see them a few times.
Yeah.
Where the humanoid NPCs and a few of the non-humanoid, yeah, they get recycled everywhere. A lot.
I feel like that's forgivable in these older games, especially NPCs. Like, yeah, all right. But like the newer games, I don't feel like that's acceptable because the newer games, they're randomly generated. Okay, I get it. They're randomly generated and they're placed and they're, they are what they are. But I feel like if your NPCs are randomly generated in specific spots, why not have the NPCs themselves be randomly generated? Like like the computer selects male or female. The computer selects of 4, like 4 different hairstyles, 3 different shirts, a couple different pants. That way, if you have the same character back to back, maybe the faces will be the same, but the hairstyles is different, or the shirt's different, or something, just to not have it be so recycled.
I agree. Well, or just be smart about your NPC placement, because there is a little girl and a boy in Alexandria at the very beginning. They're running around with a balloon. But like all the kids, there's that same 2. And when you get to Lindblom, Zidane goes into their hideout, and these little kids come in and start talking to him like he knows who they are. And I'm sitting here thinking, are these the same kids that were in Alexandria? Were they there because of the theater ship? Or are they just the different pair of kids?
Yeah, I remember thinking the same thing.
I mean, I guess just take that stuff into consideration, because I was legit, because I love this game so much, I like to make up my own theories about things, and so then it's like, maybe these are the same kids, maybe they're orphans, and they were with them in Alexandria. All because they didn't take the time to make new NPCs for the kids, or just changed something.
Yeah. I think that is laziness on the developer side, or you also have to consider space.
Yes, I agree. And it was a 4-disc game, and it was big.
And like, you have to, only so much information fits on one disc. So like, to have so many different NPCs is difficult, space-wise. But, again, the newer games don't have that excuse.
Right.
You can make them as big as you want. Like, they don't care. Like,
the only thing I could think with like your theory or idea of randomizing is I feel like there's maybe be more potential for like glitchy things to happen or something wrong to go on.
Probably, but still, I feel like that should be in consideration. I mean, it really should. Or try harder to not have them be placed next to each other like that. Have a rule in the computer system that says NPC for this character model cannot be within so many. Yeah. It has to have a distance.
Do you remember that there's in the slums, the Final Fantasy remake, there was like the same either old man or woman in the same room.
It was in the bar in Sector
7?
No.
It was with Aerith.
It was Sector 6, I think. 5 or 6 with Aerith, yeah. And, like, you're sitting, you walk into this, like, bar.
There's one outside as you're walking in, one as soon as you walk in, and, like, 2 or 3 throughout the entire, and it's just a small bar. It was bad.
Terrible. It was terrible. It's like they only had one character model for, like, this old lady, and they just recycled it over and over again. It was dumb. It was really dumb. So, I mean, yeah, like, I feel like newer games, there's no excuse. Older games, like, you have spatial issues that you have to deal with that I can kind of, I guess, allow it. But, yeah,
I will say,
there are some things that you...
For 9, I feel like it's a little more excusable because they have so many different unique characters still, because you still have a wide variety. It's just they use they're the same humans. They have so many in the same, I don't know, hippos.
Yeah.
The hippo people.
I feel like some games can get away with that with war type stuff because armor is armor is armor, so they all look the same. Makes sense. Where, like, NPCs is kind of hard to get away, you know.
But see, it's interesting though, because in the beginning you're playing as you sneak into Alexandria and you dress up in armor. And Blank's character is in armor, but you can tell it's Blank still because he's still got his arm, because he's got like this patchwork on his skin, and you can tell by his arms. I don't know. I didn't take a minute to check. I feel like that's in the original, but maybe it's because of the upscaled models that I have. Maybe
I would love to check.
Yeah. Except
stupid Danny deleted episode 1 of my playthrough of Final Fantasy IX.
Womp womp.
So yeah, I can't even look back and find. I mean, I could replay it. It's not like it's that far, but yeah, like I was going through and uploading stuff, and you can like select multiple files and do stuff with. Well, I selected Final Fantasy IX 1 and hit export. And then I went down further and was going to delete out an old file that I had in there, and I selected it and hit delete. And when I scroll back up, episode 1 was gone. And I'm like, uh-oh. And I looked back in YouTube to see if it exported. The file's there, like it started to export, but it never went through because I deleted it. I was mad, angry with myself. I screwed up. Like, that's on me. That's not Twitch's fault. And it says on there, if you delete this, but I thought I was deleting just the one file. I didn't know that I had multiple selected. So, but yeah, it's gone. So there's nothing I can do about it. But yeah, if I otherwise had it, it'd be easy to just rewind and see where that spot was. Because I kind of had that thought when I saw it happening. I thought that they just used a generic soldier.
And maybe they did, I can't remember exactly. Yeah. But in mine, you can see
You
clearly,
could tell it was different. That's cool.
Their character models are crisp. Like, it's satisfying. Nice. And you can make out Garnet's buck cheeks and everything.
Ooh, soft.
Well, I will say it feels like that they adjusted some of their colors a little bit. I don't know for sure, but it seems like, but I feel like it fits the background graininess a little bit more too. Because their backgrounds are not...
Like, they muted some of the colors a little bit?
No, more like they're almost grungier. I don't know how to explain it.
That's what I mean. Like, they toned down the saturation of the color.
Yeah, I suppose. Well, there's definitely more intense color. It's almost like they have more texture to them that gets colorized. I don't know. But it really does work. It's kind of satisfying being able to finally see them.
Yeah.
So yeah, it's been fun.
Yeah, it has. And we're only like a week or so into the game.
I've only been playing for...
Yeah, you're gonna plow through this game so
probably.
fast. But on the flip side, you wanted to do like everything, right?
I know, and my stupid face already made a mistake because I want to try and get as much treasure because you get ranked at the end for your treasure hunter skills, and in Bermesia, you have to walk across this platform to get to this treasure chest. But if you run, the platform falls. And you can't get to it anymore. And I forgot. And my game apparently saves my... It, like, auto-saves, I guess? Because I died. It's fairly easy to get wiped out, I feel like, in this game. But I died, and it respawned me to just before I went into that battle. And my son came in and took my Switch, and while I was in the middle of a game, and I put it down for a minute, and I came back, and he'd closed out of it, but it saved my spot. I loaded my save file and everything, and it kept me where I was.
So it's not... your save file doesn't save at the Moogle spots then? It just saves wherever it wants to?
It will save, because I don't know exactly when it auto-saves, because I don't think I see
Can you
anything.
go into the menu and, like, turn off auto-saves?
I can look, I guess. It's been kind of nice, but...
Right.
But, like, because I had already done that with my... I couldn't just restart.
Yeah.
So...
Yeah, that sucks.
So, yeah, I gotta be careful.
I thought about restarting the hunt, the Festival of the Hunt, because... I was 1 point away from getting first place.
You probably just missed like one monster.
I didn't quite make it all the way through the business side, and I was like walking through the business side, but yeah, I was like literally Freya won with like 76 and I lost with like 75.
So you didn't fight the big monster together?
No.
Oh, that sucks.
I don't know where everything's at. So, like, I knew that there was a big monster, but I started in the theater district, and then I went to the business district. Oh, yeah, and then I went to the industrial district, right? So, yeah, I did those, and then I went to the industrial district and didn't make it all the way through. And that must have been where the big monster was, because...
He's in the business district, but you gotta hit every single monster.
Oh, see, yeah, that's... I didn't
I actually forgot to look in one of the buildings, because when you look in a building, he goes, oh, this isn't a time to be doing that. And then a monster comes running out, and I forgot that one, so I had to go all the way back to... Because I couldn't get the event to spawn. I'm like, why isn't this popping up? It always pops up now. Yeah, so I had to run back. I had 5 minutes, so...
Yeah, you had plenty of time to figure it out.
But yeah.
Well, I didn't have that luxury, though Zidane was killing everything in like one hit. Yeah. So, I felt like I could have, I wasn't, like you've played it enough where I don't know, I don't know where they're all supposed to be. I just was running around hoping I could find stuff. So, yeah.
I love that music.
Yeah, I know.
That was really good music.
The whole game has been that way.
Yeah.
Like every song starts up and I'm like, oh, I like this song.
Yeah, I love this game a lot. I remember playing this as kids and it was the game I couldn't wait for you to play the next part. I think it got to the point where I just played it myself because I couldn't wait for you to get home from school and stuff.
Well, Sorry, let me restart that sentence.
The scenes? So you're going to talk about the cut scenes?
So, when we were kids, our dad got us a modded PlayStation 1. He got it from a buddy at work, and this guy at work that he got it from was also selling games. So for, he modded the PlayStation, and then, we got some games, and we got Final Fantasy IX. And so we were playing through Final Fantasy IX, and it was okay, but the cutscenes, the, cinematic cutscenes, were not loading. And no matter what you did, it wouldn't load. And we would, beat the heck out of that PlayStation trying to... I think now, knowing what I know now about hardware and mod chips and that, I realized that it was probably a loose connection on the mod chip, that the person who put in the mod chip did a botched job. And so the connection wasn't fully there, and so the signal wasn't good enough to be able to get through. However, well, in any case,
we were like 8.
Yeah,
so.
I know we were little. We didn't know what we were doing, so we were just beating the heck out of it. Because sometimes if we beat the heck out of the system, it would work. Well, there was one cutscene in Delhi where you're flying off in the blimp in the airship, and that cutscene we could not get past.
We would get like it would go like 10 frames and stop, and we beat it up, and then it would go like 5 frames, 1, 5, you hear the PlayStation,
and we were like
struggling.
Open the disc, take the disc out, put the disc back in, turn it upside down, like whatever it took to try and get a little bit further to get past the cutscene.
Which, by the way, I can skip my cutscenes.
Okay, you can't do that in these games.
Which
so
like, nice.
If you were able to skip the cutscene, it would have been fine. Like if your disc was a little scratchy, it would just skip the cutscene and you'd be back into the next area. But yeah, so luckily, I am playing the original PS1 version, an official PS1 version that is not all scratched up. So the cutscenes are loading just fine.
But we still get that anxiety of like, is it gonna go?
Yeah, I know.
Is it gonna go?
Every cutscene, it's like, come on, just make
There's
it.
2 cutscenes in this game. That one and one at the very end that we had issues with.
Yeah, I remember that. Yep.
Yeah, high anxiety. It's like waiting for the PlayStation logo to finish loading.
It's like, will it make it all the way through?
Good times.
Yeah, so we'll probably be finishing this game not for the next podcast episode, but for the, June 1st?
Oh my gosh,
so,
it's already...
Yeah, I know.
Oh my gosh, that's insane.
May 1st, we're going to have to figure something out. But then June 1st will be Final Fantasy IX. May 1st, okay, so Pokemon Snap's coming out soon.
Yeah.
Last time, in the last podcast episode with Shannon, I had said that it was coming out last month, like late last month. I was a month off. Oh. It's coming out late this month, and there's not going to be enough time to beat Pokemon Snap before May 1st. So we're going to have to play something else. So we'll figure that out eventually. Just be aware that right now we have no idea what it's going to be. It's probably going to be another indie game. It's probably going to be something short and sweet that we'll just throw in, we'll play, and be done with. But we're still playing Final Fantasy IX. I can't imagine that it's going to take us a whole lot more than the month. Like, we'll probably be pretty close to finishing it by the end of this month. So, I mean...
I'll have this game beat. I might beat it before you.
Oh, wow, that would be a first.
The only game I think I did beat... It seems like I did beat one game or something like that. It doesn't happen often.
It's very possible that I could beat it by the end of this month. And if that's the case, then awesome. You know, we can... If I can beat it this month, then we could play Pokemon Snap for the next podcast episode. That would be ideal, but I don't know. Yeah. I mean, I could push it and probably get it done this month. I play 3 days a week for 3 hours a day. And so that is it's like almost 40 hours of gameplay. And some days I play a little bit more. And sometimes I might play on the weekend. So, really, I probably could get it done this month if I tried hard enough. So yeah, I mean, maybe I'll push for that. If you think you will... Oh, yeah.
I'll get it. I'll be able to have it beat.
You can have it beat this week.
I probably could. I've been I intend to do a few, side things that I just like to do, but...
Sure, yeah.
It's been a while since I've played 9, so I'm excited.
Yeah, we can talk about that too. So for me, I don't know if you guys remember. If you have been listening to the podcast for a while, I've talked about this before. I've played all the Final Fantasy games, but I played them quite a while ago before we started the podcast. We've been doing the podcast. It'll be 5 years this July. Aww. So it was 5 years before we started the podcast that I played them all the way through. So it's been 10 years now since I played Final Fantasy IX. And I actually looked it up. I took a picture when I beat Final Fantasy IX last time, and it was like May of like, what was it, 2011 or something like that. So it's been exactly 10 years this this coming month that I've beat the game.
I think it's been about 7 or 8 years since I've played this last, like, fully. I think. I don't recall playing it, but maybe I had some time. But the last time I fully remember has been about, because I played it like a year or two after you did, yeah. So yeah, but it is kind of like, I remember quite a bit, but there were other things like, I don't remember this stuff. I have to look it up or something. My strategy guide, the Brady Game strategy guide, is awful. There's so many bad things about it. I wanted to make my own at one point, but I have like a whole bunch of Post-it notes in my strategy.
Do you still have your original strategy
somewhere.
guide? You'll have to like take a picture of it if you find it, because it's a masterpiece.
My favorite thing about that strategy guide is there's a scene that you're playing as Garnet, and for whatever reason, the person who took the screen caps named their Garnet Zidane. I don't know why, but they did, and it's so funny. So yeah.
I have the Brady Game strategy guide too, and it is like the most useless
Play
piece.
online.
Yeah,
Play online.
like there's no there's
effort.
no detail put into it. Everything that goes into further detail, it's just like, go to play online.
Well,
and there's obviously the website's dead now. So
not only that, there's inaccuracies, because there's things you can steal from certain bosses that it says there's nothing to steal and that there is. And then there's some strategy guides will tell you things that you need to know or figure out, but they'll just give it to you in the strategy guide. They don't do that in this one. They're just like, either go online or good luck. I don't know why even have a strategy guide, honestly.
I know, it's terrible. It is really bad. The worst strategy guide ever made. That said, though, they have a better strategy guide that's been released recently.
Oh, yeah.
The set. So I have that strategy guide that I like.
We'll have to compare.
Yeah, you can flip through it and probably be like, oh yeah, this is way better. I don't know where that strategy guide came from. It's from Prima, I think Prima Games. I think that's the name of the guide set. But they came out with Final Fantasy 7, 8, and 9 as like a bundle set, and it goes over it a lot better. I think you looked at it when I first bought it and it was better, so I'd be curious to know. But like, I never really used the strategy guides anyway. For me, it's more of just a piece of art on the wall, but like, I use it sometimes, like, where am I going?
It is great if like they include maps. I liked to use it to figure out where I was going next, or to like figure out your armor situation or what you can steal, or just not so much that I need help playing the game. It's just more of the
finer details.
It's instead of having to type up each and everything online, it's, well, let me just check the book really quick. I'll have it here. It's nice
to have it like right there next to you, like a quick.
There in that book.
Yeah, that's how I would use it too. But I mean, almost every game we've played, I haven't really needed the guide for. There's been a few games, I think it was Final Fantasy VIII, that there was a spot, and I'm like, I have no idea what the game wants me to do. I'm gonna have to look it up.
Yeah.
But for the most part, there isn't any.
Those earlier games.
There's no games that I really have needed the guide for.
The maps are helpful, only because the enemies in the earlier games were so rough. You wanted to figure out if it was worth getting all the treasure.
Right, yeah, exactly. And then it's like, you can look at the guide and see the map of the dungeon and be like, okay, the elixirs are here, here, and here, and these are all potions. Forget the potions, go straight for the elixirs, get in, get out, done.
Absolutely. Yep.
It's going to be sad when we finish Final Fantasy IX and then Final Fantasy X, because it kind of ends the active time battle system era of the RPGs. Like, there's still a lot of other RPGs that use that similar system, but like the Final Fantasy series, that's where it ends.
Yeah.
And, we're getting really close to that point.
I am pretty excited for 10, though. It's been a hot minute. I've played it more recently, but I did buy the the remaster and everything.
I think I'll probably play the remaster of 10
They
also.
redid their music. Not redid it, but like they revamped the music.
They have like a choice though where you can change it back to the original.
Oh, that's good.
I'm pretty sure. So yeah, I don't know what I'll play it on. I have it for, I think, the PS4 or PS3. I'll have to look. But yeah, I'll probably play a HD remastered version simply because the PS2 version and the remaster version just looks so nice.
Yeah.
And the PS2 version looks like crap. So, I mean, I had up to this point, and I may change my mind when we actually get to Final Fantasy X, but up to this point, I've played every Final Fantasy game on its intended original system. So it's like, I don't know if I'm going to want to deviate from that. But I also want to play the Zodiac Age version for Final Fantasy XII. So, like, I don't know if I'm going to want to play the original Final Fantasy XII when I could play the nicer Zodiac Age version. So
I am very excited to play that.
Yeah, me too. Do you have the Zodiac Age version?
I don't.
Oh,
no.
maybe I'll let you use that one and then I'll play the original.
Oh, we'll talk about it. Anyway.
Yeah, we'll figure it out. I mean, we could probably find the Zodiac Age version on the PS4 for like really cheap now. So if we're going to be taking a trip soon out of town to do some video game shopping, so maybe I'll keep an eye out for it for you.
Nice, thanks.
Yeah, of course.
Yeah, from what I understand, that one is fairly underrated. People feel like, it's kind of underrated.
I feel like 9's the same way.
I feel like
it kind of skirted under the radar, but it's a really solid game.
The way I feel about. I don't know if this is true or not. I feel like that 9 is underrated more so that people just don't talk about it. Because there's a lot of hardcore Final Fantasy 9 fans that love 9. But 7 people are so vocal about 7 being amazing. And again, 7 is one of my favorites too. Mm-hmm. But I feel like it's just people talked more either about 7 or 10.
Yeah.
Just 9 just kind of was put out there and was like, eh.
Well, I think that's kind of the common thing with Final Fantasy fans. The first game you play is typically your favorite. And typically people pick up a Final Fantasy game with the new system. So like the PlayStation came out and Final Fantasy VII was the hot item. I mean, same with like the Super Nintendo. The Super Nintendo came out and Final Fantasy II for the Super Nintendo, which was Final Fantasy IV in the US. So that is a big deal for a lot of fans.
Sure.
Final Fantasy IV, Final Fantasy VII, Final Fantasy X, Final Fantasy XIII. So like those are the hot ones for people to be into. And then the other ones are more like they're treated like sequels. Though they're not, they're treated like that. So I can kind of see, how some of these games got just underrated. Like Final Fantasy V is a great game. I really enjoyed Final Fantasy V, and I feel like there's like no promotional information out there for it. It got like one re-release. Square Enix like shoves it under the rug, and it's a great game.
It was a really good. In fact, we were talking about profound deaths of Final Fantasy, and I feel like that Galuf, his death in that game was. I thought that was really. It seemed so. I don't want to say legit because that's just a weird word, but like believable. Like it was touching because he died for his granddaughter. It was just
well, and I feel like up until that point, the deaths in the game were kind of like half-hearted.
Yeah,
it was just like,
lots of
he got crushed by a rock.
Final Fantasy 2 had a lot of deaths. Oh my gosh.
But then they all came back at the end. Yeah. So like, what was the point? It was like Dragon Ball Z.
Yeah.
Like all these characters die and then they're like, well, we bring the dragon and bring them all back to life again. No big deal. Like, what was the point of their heroic death? Like, no one cares.
Yeah. But I digress. Yeah, Final Fantasy V was a really good game. Like that one.
Yeah.
Definitely underrated. I would be interested in playing that one again at some point.
Yeah.
If I were to go back and play these games.
I'm curious what we're going to do for 11. I know we talk about it a lot, but like, I still have no idea. I think...
Apparently it's still popping.
Yeah. I think what we're going to end up doing is we'll play through Final Fantasy X, And when we're ready to play 11, we'll just buy, or I think we get a free 30-day trial or something like that. So maybe we can just crush it and get it done in the 30-day trial and not have to worry about it. But I would like to just get through the main game. That way, we're not playing Final Fantasy XI for 2 years. We can just play the main game, get it out of the way, and then move on to 12. And if we feel like playing the DLC, or not DLC, it's the expansion packs for 11, then we can go back and do that. But,
until then.
Yeah. So we'll figure that out when the time comes. It's just, I think that's probably how we're going to handle it, because there's no reason in doing all of the Final Fantasy XI expansions. Same with 14. If there's no reason to do all of the Final Fantasy 14 expansions when we really just want to get the main game done and out of the way. But I mean, we may play 14 and fall in love with it and want to play all the expansions as separate, podcast episodes. But it's one of those things for you guys at home, I don't want to make you guys listen to 2 years of Final Fantasy XI and 2 years of Final Fantasy 14, it would take us a long time to get through all of that content. So for your guys' sake, I would much rather just play the base game and then maybe eventually go back to Final Fantasy 11 or 14 and play the expansions as separate entities, as separate, almost like completely new games. So I don't know.
We'll see.
We'll see how it boils down. I mean, I want to play them.
Yeah.
So no matter what we're going to play them, I just need to know how, I don't know how we're going to handle it yet.
It's still a ways off.
Yeah, it is.
Oh, it'll be here before we know it.
Well, I think we'll probably be able to get through Final Fantasy X this year. Mm-hmm. So maybe early next year we'll be able to get start up on Final Fantasy XI.
Probably here this time next year.
Yeah, probably. Probably. Or maybe a little earlier, but we'll see. It just depends on how quickly we want to start Final Fantasy X.
What is announced and released.
Yeah, that's true. I mean, if they announce 16, we'll probably just jump straight into 16 like we did with 15. I'd be alright with that.
Man, that'll be... 16's coming.
I know, it's crazy.
Sometimes I forget. It's like, oh right, there's another Final Fantasy in the works.
Yeah. And they're pretty far along. They haven't announced a release date or anything, but it's soon. It's very soon.
It's exciting. Sounds like they're going back to their roots again. Going
back to the medieval style of Final Fantasy, which will be nice. It is rated M for mature, or they're predicting it's going to be, so that will be a very different take of how the story is going to be portrayed.
I wonder if it'll be in terms of their rating how it is with Type O. It's just a little more
just be more serious, yeah. Where it'll still be Final Fantasy at its core, so it's going to have goofy spots, but I think it'll just be a more serious tone. Speaking of Type O, we need to play that.
I know.
That's good. It's such a good game. It's so worth it.
I played a little bit, but I never... That's why I like Zap Night, is because I kind of have to. Mm-hmm. I think it's nice to... Because I picked it up, I enjoyed it, and then I put it down, I was like, well... then I forgot about it.
And that's why I wanted to start Zap Night, because of that reason exactly. I was playing games for, an hour or two, and I'm like, and then dropping it and never playing it again. And here I spend, $60 on a game and never touch it. I hate that.
I used to play the same 3 games over again.
Yeah.
Final Fantasy 9, Final Fantasy 7, Animal Crossing, Final Fantasy 9, Final Fantasy 7. Throw in a random game.
I mean, I was kind of that way too, but it was more what can me and Lori play together? And we would be, and we still are like this, where we'll be super into a game for a while, and then we'll just, we'll either beat it or we'll drop it or whatever, and then we'll put it aside and find something else eventually. Right now, we're just watching TV, so that's our thing.
Yeah.
But eventually, we may get into another big platformer and want to play that, and we'll play it till we beat it, sort of deal.
Yeah.
So yeah, if you don't have anything else you want to talk about, Keely?
I don't think so.
All right, well, we're going to end it here for today, guys. wish us luck on trying to beat Final Fantasy IX by the end of this month. I think it's a good challenge. I think we could try. I think we could get there.
I definitely feel like I could.
I know you could. Yeah. It's really, for me, like, I feel like my time is so limited, but like this month this week I played through, but then this weekend I was level grinding.
And so that'll help you get through.
Yeah, I think if I can just keep level grinding, I think that'll help me, stay ahead of the curve and make the game easier as a whole. Because like I want to be making progress. I hate level grinding during a streaming session because it's so boring. But on the flip side, if, there's a lot of people in the chat, I should be level grinding over making story progress. So maybe how I think needs to change. Like, if there's a lot of people in chat, I need to just walk around and try and encounter enemies. But that's a quick
way to die.
It tends to happen where, like, I'll be like in the middle of a story and then a bunch of people show up and they're like hanging out and talking to me and I'm like, I'm not paying attention to the story at all. So, I'll figure it out.
Yeah.
All right. Well, guys, thank you all so much for listening to this episode of Zap Chats. We'll see you in a couple weeks on May 1st for our next episode of Zap Night, the review podcast episode. You'll know if it's Final Fantasy IX or not because it'll be in the title. So wish us luck, and we'll see you guys next time.
Bye.